I have created absolute chaos setting up to film this video. I've just been trying to find a spot where there's actual natural light and you can see the plants that I'm about to show you, because it is such a grim, horrible day and I am literally sat amongst a sea of plants in total chaos. But I feel like I'm so far in now, I have to just commit. So we're going to try and make this work with very limited space. But hello everyone, I hope you are doing well. I haven't filmed a video in absolutely ages and this feels really lovely to be back doing this again because I have got lots that I want to show you. And these are my favourite kind of videos to make, to be honest. I haven't made one in a really long time, but I really love putting my plants side by side with their old selves and just seeing how much they've grown. Because I think it's all well and good kind of chatting through things on a weekly basis and being like, oh my goodness, look at this new leaf and da 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 da. But sometimes you don't actually get a really good kind of overview and I guess a bit of perspective on like the plant's growth patterns and actually what is deemed good or bad for that type of plant unless you allow time to pass. So today I thought I would take you through some of the plants that I showed you in my houseplant tour that I filmed about 6 months ago now, just over 6 months, and put those clips side by side and see what's changed. But first, if you're new here, hi, my name's Claire and this is Yoli. I make videos all about houseplant care, sharing tips and tricks I've learnt over the years to help keep your plants happy and healthy. And yeah, as I say, these videos are genuinely really fun for me to make because I see my plants every single day. I don't always get to notice how much they've changed unless I do this. So yeah, I hope you enjoy it. Let's get into it. Hey baby, hello. Yoli's got a new bed and she absolutely loves it. But yeah, like I say, I filmed my houseplant tour video about 6 months ago now, and if you haven't seen it, it is about 3.5 hours long, in fact maybe even close to 4 hours. I will link it down below if you fancy watching it after this video. But I have just picked 10 plants that I feel like, I mean, I could do multiple parts to this video, but just 10 that grabbed my attention and I wanted to talk to you about today. As always, no particular order, but the first one that I'm going to start with is one of my euphorbias. Little Euphorbia trigona, and this is such a gorgeous little euphorbia, but to be honest, it's only started doing stuff for me in literally like the last couple of months. Again, you'll be seeing a lot of swap plants in my collection, but this is one I picked up last year, and it was literally just like a clean cut of euphorbia, and I allowed it to callus over for I think about a month in total. I shouldn't really have left it that long, but I left it about a month, and because it had been chopped at the top here as well, I wasn't quite sure how it was going to grow or how many branches it was going to give me. And it's already got these little 2 branches here, but I can see as well it's also just starting to put out that one, so I feel like it's going to be a big beefy euphorbia once it gets going. So if we look at this plant now 6 months on, this is what it's looking like. And I know in the clip that I just showed you I was saying 6 months ago that it had just started to branch, and oh my god, it's not the fastest growing plant in the world, but I think you almost don't notice this one grow as much as some of the other ones that I'm going to show you, just purely for the fact that it hasn't got like, I don't know, it doesn't unfurl new leaves, it just kind of expands and gets longer. But I am finding it such a rewarding plant to grow. If you watch my other videos, you'll know I absolutely adore euphorbias. I think it is just such a wonderful genus of plant. I find them on the whole very easy to look after, very low maintenance. And this one, if anything, I would say I have been slightly neglecting. I think I probably could be watering this one more than I currently am, but it is very drought tolerant and it is very forgiving. So yeah, I've had it just right up in my south facing window, not in the exact same spot as I was growing it before, but still in this window. And as you can tell, it is just giving me the most beautiful, beautiful growth. And it's got so many of these, I always just want to call them leaves. I'm not sure if there is like a technical term for them. In fact, I feel like I've asked this before and I feel like some of you have told me, I just haven't remembered. But yeah, it looks lovely. The only thing that I do know about these little, whatever you call them, little leaf things here, is that they are very sensitive, considering as well that this is a plant that is quite hardy. I've had euphorbias in the past, and if their environment has changed even slightly, or like you might receive them in the post and it might have this and then a few days later they'll die off, they are just very, very sensitive compared to the rest of the plants. So I think if I do move this plant significantly, I will have to just do it very gradually and kind of acclimate the plant very slowly. But no, it's one that I'm really proud of, and I'm really excited to come back to in another 6 months and see how it's doing, because it's doing amazingly. And then this next one is currently hanging above me, and it is one of my favourite plants. It's one that I speak about a lot. And oh my goodness, the growth comparison on this one is pretty crazy. It is my Anthurium Pallidiflorum. Oh my goodness, such a favourite in my collection right now is my Anthurium Pallidiflorum. And oh my God, I wanted this plant for such a long time before I got it. Like, this was a wish list plant for me for years and years and years. And if you're not new to my channel, then you'll probably know that I banged on about this plant pretty much constantly until I eventually bit the bullet and I found one for a price that I was happy with, and I did go ahead and get it for myself at the beginning of the year. And I'm having to stand up to show you what this plant looks like now, because oh my goodness, I don't know if you can even comprehend just how much this one has grown. It is absolutely crazy. It is hands down the fastest growing Anthurium I have ever grown, I think. It is just so insane, and it makes me so happy because it is one, as I said in that clip, it is or was a massive wish list plant for me, and the fact that it has got such incredibly rewarding growth that doesn't kind of like, I don't know, you don't have to wait months and months for, that makes me very happy. So yeah, it is actually giving me a new leaf at the moment as well, just there. You might be able to tell as well, it's got one leaf here, which is its biggest leaf. It's over 80 centimeters long, which is just crazy, but it is very sadly sellotaped up. There was a little accident where it accidentally fell off the shelf and broke. Fortunately, that is the only like really bad damage, and the leaf hasn't died back. So yeah, I just need to learn to be a little more careful with this one. But I did make a full breakdown kind of care video on this plant, talking about what I've done differently to, I don't know, some of the other things that I've seen online and how I've managed to get it to grow so quickly. So if you are interested to watch that, I will link it down below. But yeah, now I've kind of got the hang of this plant, I have found it to be a really, as I say, a really straightforward one that I'm just finding incredibly rewarding to grow, and I can't wait to see, oh my God, I can't wait to see what it does next. I have like, when I think of my plants in the future and like my planty setups in the future, I have dreams of this one just like, I don't know, hanging down at the top of like a beautiful shelf, and like I feel like we're getting there already because it is just magnificent. Yeah, I love it so much. And then coming back down here, another one that is a firm favourite in my collection but has done some pretty crazy things over the last 6 months is the Peperomia Hope. And then here next to it is one of my favourite plants. This is the Peperomia Hope. And I have banged on about this plant, I swear to God, for years and years and years, because I think it's such an underrated houseplant. And I personally think it's one that everyone should have in their collection. It just makes me so happy. It's pretty easy to grow, assuming you keep it in quite high light as well. It's fairly fast growing. Like, I chopped this one back about a month ago and already it's starting to put out so much new growth. If you look at all of the top there, that is all new growth. So looking at the plant now compared to the clip that you just saw, you'll probably be able to tell it is looking significantly fuller and much healthier. Annoyingly, I should have watered this plant before filming this video. It is a little bit dehydrated. I can feel its leaves are quite kind of like thin and floppy at the moment. But this is one that I feel like I've almost had to kind of relearn, which I know probably sounds really weird, but I was used to growing this plant in the environment that I was in before I moved here 2 years ago, which was my mum's conservatory. And when I first moved this plant here, everything went wrong. Like, it just went downhill so quickly, and I did end up losing that plant. So I got this one again as a very, very small plant. I think it was only about that big and only had like, I don't know, not many leaves at all. But I got that pretty much exactly a year ago on my 30th birthday, and I have just turned 31. So yes, literally a year ago. And it was growing well, but it was coming in very leggy and very stretched. And I was like, why is it growing so differently to how it was when I was growing it before? And I was like, okay, look at the environment that I was growing it in at my mum's when it was really happy. How can I do a little bit more to replicate that in this space? So I decided to completely chop it back. I chopped back so many of the leggy bits that just weren't doing what I wanted them to do. And honestly, it was the best decision. I'm pretty sure in the 6 month ago comparison clip, you can see new growth that's just like starting to push through, and all of that now has really, really filled in. So again, I know I bang on about it a lot, but it can be such a scary thing, chopping your plants, but more often than not, in fact, I don't know if I've ever regretted it. More often than not, I would just be like, oh, I'm so happy I did that, because now, although it might be sad at the time, the plant is now thriving even more. And that is definitely the case for this one. It's one that I feel like now, again, I have really sussed. And should things go wrong again in the future, I feel like I will be better equipped to deal with them, if that makes sense. But yeah, I'll keep you updated with it, as I will with all of these plants, but it's one that I'm just really proud of. I absolutely love it. I've said it before, it's kind of, it almost feels quite Hoya-esque in its growth structure, but it's a really easy one to look after once you figure it out. And yeah, it's just really lovely and rewarding to grow. And then this next one is looking incredibly different to the last time you saw it 6 months ago. It is my Anthurium magnificum. And then up here, this is the Anthurium magnificum I mentioned earlier that is not doing particularly well. As you can see, it's got very crispy, crunchy edges. And although this leaf is huge, it's just not growing in the way I'd like it to be. And to be completely honest, I think one of the main factors as to why this is just because it's not getting the light that it needs. Especially, obviously, we have just come out of the winter months and we've been getting not just fewer hours of light, but less light intensity as well. And that is really what I've noticed this start to happen. And it is actually giving me a brand new leaf at the top there that you can see. So, I mean, it like all hope is not doomed. This is definitely a very hardy Anthurium. So similarly to what I just said about my Peperomia Hope, how sometimes being a bit brutal and making some difficult chops can be a really good way to bring the plant back to health, that is definitely the case with this one. And very soon after I filmed my houseplant tour, I think literally within a couple of days, I did completely lop this plant back to nothing. It had no leaves at all. It was literally just like a stump in a cup. But since I've done that, obviously it's just kind of reset the plant. I have kind of upped its light a little bit. I've moved it slightly closer to this window, but it is just growing beautifully for me now. This is the first leaf it's given me since I chopped it back, which is way bigger than I was expecting, to be honest, because I really did think that this could, I don't know, not like take the plant back to nothing, but often you do lose a little bit of size when you stress the plant. So yeah, if this is its first leaf, I feel like this one is going to size up ridiculously quickly now. And I can't actually remember what I was growing it in before. I have a feeling it might have been semi-hydro, but I have changed out quite a lot of things for, in fact, for a lot of my Anthuriums since I filmed that houseplant tour video. But now I'm growing this one in almost a soilless mix, which is very similar to the way that I'm growing a lot of my Anthuriums. And you can't see that well on camera, although it is a transparent pot. I'm growing it in tree fern fibre, orchid bark, and a little bit of soil. And what I'm doing is I'm just layering sphagnum moss on the top. And when this sphagnum moss gets completely dry, typically that's time to check the plant and see if it's ready for a drink again. And that is a system that I've just found works really, really well for this one. And yeah, I just think it's looking so much healthier than it was before. Although it's not like a crazy growth update with like loads of leaves, I would prefer to always focus on the health of the plant as opposed to speed of growth. So yeah, this feels like a real achievement, and I'm really glad that I have managed to finally get this plant back to a healthy state. It is also one that when it gets going is quite fast to grow, and now that it has started to get going again, I do feel like I probably will get some lovely growth coming in more. Wow, it's a struggle to speak today. But yeah, as I say, I will continue to keep you updated, but it's one that I'm incredibly proud of. Oh, okay, this next one is a weird one and one I kind of want to pick your brains about. So this is a 6-month update on my Dieffenbachia sparkles. And then at the back here, I've got, this is a Dieffenbachia, and I've only ever known this one referred to as Dieffenbachia sparkles, or something like that. I can't remember exactly, and I don't know the Latin name for it, so I'll either put it on the screen or, again, if you know, please let me know. But it's got really, really beautiful foliage. It's growing pretty well for me. Again, it's a very hardy plant. It hasn't really given me any grief, but I do know that this one has currently got fungus gnats, and the reason you can't see them buzzing about is purely because the soil is pretty much bone dry at the moment. So this is another one that very soon after filming that houseplant tour video, I discovered thrips on it, and I basically just made the call to chop the entire plant back. I often find that thrips are really, really difficult to deal with on Dieffenbachia. I don't know why. But yeah, I lopped loads of the foliage back. I lopped quite a lot of the stems back, and I put it back into a prop bin, kind of like, I don't know if you can see them, but kind of like the ones I've got behind me here. And that is where it stayed as stumps for, I think, probably like 2 months or so. And it's grown back looking like a completely different type of Dieffenbachia. So this is like the main bit, which, to be honest, I could lop back again. But if you look at the foliage, it is so, so different that it almost looks like a different species, to the point that when I was setting up to film for this video, I was like, did I get another one? But I didn't get another one. And I think because I had lopped it back so much, I wasn't as aware of the fact that it was growing back differently, as opposed to the way in which I might be if I had like kept another bit by and I could compare them, if that makes sense. It was just looking at the clips, I was like, oh my God, that's so weird. It's like a different plant. So if anyone has any theories as to why this might have happened, or like how this might have happened, I would be really interested to know, because it's a little bit baffling to me. I know sometimes when you regrow a plant, its immature growth can look very different to its mature growth when it kind of hits peak maturity. And I'm guessing that's what must be happening here. Like, I assume as the plant grows and matures, it will just start to look like it did before again. But yeah, it's just like, I don't know. It just feels very, very abnormal, and something that I can't currently quite get my head around. But nonetheless, again, another example of chopping the plant back to conserve health, and in this case, actually create much bushier growth, because as you can see, in chopping it back, it has kind of put out lots of new growth towards the bottom, and I have created a much fuller plant. So even if I did lop that top bit back now, I could in fact chop it and propagate it, and I would just continue to help the plant to fill out. So it's beautiful. It's one that I find very rewarding, but it's just, yeah, it's just confused me a bit looking at it back then and looking at it now. I'm sure I haven't got a different type. I'd remember that, wouldn't I? Yeah. But yeah, it's lovely anyway. I love Dieffenbachia. I do think it is a really underrated genus of plants. It's one that I've had kind of on and off in my collection throughout the years. And yeah, this one is definitely, whether or not it changes again, here to stay. So yeah, I'll let you know what it does as it continues to grow. Oh my God, I've literally just noticed my yucca plant that's out on the balcony at the moment because we are out of space in here. I've got it in a pot without drainage, which is something I always say not to do. It was meant to be a temporary measure, and I thought the scaffolding was covering it, but it's not been covering it as much as I thought, and the pot is flooded with water, so I'm going to have to get out there and sort that out after I film this video. But the next growth comparison is like, So I wasn't sure whether or not to choose this one because it isn't a dramatic growth comparison, but it is just, it's one that I kind of wanted to talk about because I have discovered some things since the last time I showed you it, and it is my Hoya calistophylla. I've got my Hoya calistophylla and I absolutely love this Hoya. I think its leaves are so so pretty. The veination is so dramatic, and it's a Hoya that I wanted for a really long time before I actually got, and I feel really, really lucky to own it now. I absolutely love the collection of Hoyas that I've built over these last few years, because I've said it before, I think I probably got my first Hoya around about 6 years ago, and although I liked it, I didn't really kind of like get the buzz. And when I started getting like a few cuttings here or there, it was like a switch just flipped in my head. I was like, oh my God, I've got to have all the Hoyas. And now I've got, I think about, I want to say 30 or 40 different species in my collection, different species of Hoya. So I'm going to show you what it looks like now. And that is what it's looking like. And as you can see, it's got a couple of new leaves since I last showed you it. And that in itself isn't like, personally, I don't think that's particularly groundbreaking. Like, I know Hoyas can be quite slow to grow, but I wouldn't say this is particularly like fast or slow growth. But the one thing that I have discovered since filming that video, since kind of showing you the plant and that setup, is that Hoyas really, in fact, plants in general really don't like being grown in that kind of constricted way. And this should have been so obvious, but I think because I don't know how to explain it. So I think because the bottles that I was using there, they're fine for water propagation, but as soon as you put a substrate, whether it's semi-hydro or whatever you're using, as soon as you put that into them, because they've got such a tight neck to their tops, like the hole is very, very small, it doesn't allow for much like evaporation of water and stuff like that. So I would just often find that even with semi-hydro that had been fully rinsed, it would just get very, I don't know, very sludgy and congealed towards the bottom. And I think for that reason, the plant just wasn't doing particularly well like that. And as I say, I have found that to be the same with quite a few others that I've tried growing in that way. And although now I am growing the plant still without drainage, growing it in a jar, I think just because it does allow a little bit more of, I was going to say of the atmosphere, but like to hit the substrate, like maybe this is just a psychological thing, but I have noticed changes in my plants since I've made that switch. So yeah, if you are growing things in something with a very tight neck or not able to, that isn't able to allow air to get to the substrate, I would try maybe, if you're struggling with that plant, switching it out and allowing it to breathe a little bit more, because I found it makes a massive difference. And yeah, it's not something that you would necessarily expect. So although the plant hasn't grown a dramatic amount, I do feel like in the last few months since changing it to this way of growing, I am setting the plant up for success more so than I was before. So yeah, I will, like as I keep saying, I will keep you updated. I will let you know how it goes, but I do have much more faith that this is the better way of growing. I've actually still got a couple in my cabinet that I need to do this with, so I'll track their progress and I will come back to you and I will confirm this. But from the little experimenting that I've done so far, it does feel like a much better way of growing. Oh, and then this is a really good one. This is such a good one. So the one that I'm going to show you now is my Rhaphidophora foraminifera. On the floor, I've got this little Rhaphidophora foraminifera, and I haven't had this one that long. I think I've had it about 6 months in total, and I picked this up as a cutting at a plant swap last year, and already it's given me some amazing growth. It wasn't a top cut I got, it was just a mid cut, and this was the only leaf it had at the time. But as you can see, it's giving me some really, really beautiful growth now that it's got going. And I've recently put it onto a moss pole, and it hasn't actually started to root into the pole yet. It's just kind of growing next to the pole. I should really actually tie it to the pole and try and encourage its aerial roots in a little bit. But I'm just really excited for this one because as it sizes up, it starts to get the most beautiful fenestrations that run all the way down the middle of the leaf. If I can find a picture, I'll pop it on the screen so that you can see. But yeah, I'm just really excited for the potential of this plant. So looking back on that clip of it 6 months ago, it was such a baby then, and it was just kind of starting to get going. And oh my god, this is one that also, so this is what it's looking like now. But also, like, I have neglected this plant from time to time. I have not been the greatest plant parent to it, and it is just still giving me such beautiful, rewarding growth. And as you can see, it is starting to fenestrate now as well, which I am so unbelievably excited about. This is another one that I am currently growing in semi-hydro, and I actually must fill up its reservoir because it's bone dry. But just look at how well it's rooting into the moss pole now. This is so exciting for me. It's a plant that I just ogled over for such a long time, and I don't know why, because it is a Rhaphidophora, but I don't know why. I thought it might be quite slow to grow. I almost haven't noticed it growing at the rate it's been growing, to be honest. Like, it feels like it's just happened. But how many leaves did I have when I showed you it before? I feel like it wasn't many. So yeah, it's just grown so well with minimal care. So yeah, again, I'm really excited to look back on this one in a few months and see what it does. I feel like now it's started to fenestrate, assuming it keeps with the good light, and I probably care for it a little bit better than I am at the moment. I feel like it should size up and just continue to do amazingly for me. So yeah, I'm really, really excited about it. Oh, and this is a fun little one that I wanted to include. This is an update on my variegated bear paw cactus. But here I've just got a little variegated bear paw cactus. To be honest, it's not doing a huge amount for me at the moment. It was bigger, I dropped it, it snapped. Now I'm propagating it. It hasn't died, but it's not doing a huge amount. So I'm not sure if I said in the clip there that you've just seen or not, but this is one that I have just had, like, when I say drama with, I have just been very clumsy with, and I've broken several times, and it has just taken such a long time to get it back. But look at it now. Just look at how adorable that is. It's still growing in this very small little pot, which is without drainage. I will just fill it up or like give it a little bit of water every kind of like 3 or 4 weeks. I really don't do a lot to it, but it is just adorable, and like, I just love it. I don't know why, like, it almost feels like, that's like, oh, well, I mean, I guess plants kind of are. I was gonna say, it almost feels like a little pet. Like, it's just so sweet, and watching it grow and develop is just the most satisfying thing. And I didn't even know if this would do anything when I first just put it into this container, because I've never propagated a bear paw before. I didn't know if this was the way to do it. I didn't know how it would respond. And it's just really lovely to see that even though it's taking some time, as I say, like putting the clips side by side, it's really nice to see that it is actually doing something. And if you look really closely, like there, like look at the little bear paws coming in. It's doing so well. So at some point I might muster the courage to pot this up like a normal plant. But right now it seems perfectly happy like this. So I'm just keeping it away from where I can kick it or drop it. And yeah, I'll make a call on it further down the line, but I'm so happy it's doing so well. And then the penultimate plant is another one that, unless you put the clips side by side, I probably wouldn't have noticed had grown so much. But when I was looking back through the video earlier, I was like, oh my God, I was like, it's crazy how much it's grown in such a short space of time. And it is my Hoya pubicalis splash. And here I decided to pot some of my Hoya pubicalis splash cuttings in this little terrarium, and I just monitor its reservoir by taking it out and looking at the bottom there. I can see at the moment it needs filling because it's very dry, but these ones seem really happy in there. I can't like fully tilt them and show you because, as you can see, they are in semi-hydro and it just spills, but it's a really beautiful Hoya. I am just a sucker for splashy Hoyas. I think they are so pretty. So I'm still growing it in the same way as I was before in this medium, but look how much it is filling the container now. It is almost just bursting out. And it is one I'm sure that would benefit from being on a trellis, but I'm not gonna lie, I really love having it in this. It's really easy to grow. Again, like I said before, I just look at the little reservoir and I just fill it from there. It's just a really easy, low maintenance, lovely plant that actually is growing pretty quickly. So I think maybe what I'll do is when it starts to kind of properly overflow from this container, I might take some cuttings, propagate them, and maybe get them onto a trellis so I can enjoy the plant in both ways. I don't know, I know I've been saying I'm gonna try not to do duplicates in my collection until I've got a little bit more space, but it is one that I just kind of want to grow in both its forms. The other thing I will say about the Pubicalyx though, because I've also got the standard Pubicalyx that isn't as splashy, and the Pubicalyx Hawaiian, which is very, very similar, but it just comes in very, like its new growth comes in very deep purple, which is so lovely. Neither of them have actually needed to go on a trellis. Like they haven't been as tenderly as some of my other Hoyas. So I'm wondering, like maybe this one will just be fine. I don't know. But yeah, I think it is just such a beautiful one. As I say, so splashy, so gorgeous. And I'm just so pleased with how it's doing. And then finally, one that I absolutely love and could literally speak about all day is the Mandula Pothos. And then I've got a little Mandula Pothos, and again, I got this from one of you guys at the Plant Swap, the London Plant Swap last year. And oh my goodness, I cannot believe that I've gone this long as a plant parent without having a Mandula Pothos before. I know it's not as rare perhaps as some of the other plants in my collection, but I would say it's one of my favourite plants. I think it is just gorgeous. And I feel like I will have said it in that clip, but this plant is just, oh my goodness, it is one of like the most solid favourites in my collection. This is how it's doing now as well. I've put it in a hanging pot, and I've actually got it hanging on the rail just behind me up here instead of where it was before, which was, I believe, just below my TV. It's getting very similar light, and to be honest, if I had more space and more light, I would be giving it more. But I just think it's growing amazingly. It's one of these plants, I just feel like it's a very reliable plant. Like it's one that, and again, I don't want to jinx it, but it has never given me any grief. It's been next to plants with pests before, and I've never had any pest issues. And I just think the colour of its leaves is just incredible. It's such a beautiful one. And I love just looking at the texture of it hanging down with like different shades of green amongst my other plants. It makes me so happy. And it's one that I've said many a time, maybe I will chop and propagate. And to be honest, I don't want to. Like, I would like to just continue to let it grow, but I also would like to get the plant a little bit fuller. So I'm thinking maybe at some point I might get some more cuttings of it. There is another plant swap coming up, so maybe I'll acquire some more there. But yeah, it's just growing like a weed, and this is considering the fact that I'm growing it in like much lower lighting conditions than perhaps the plant would like. So if you were to grow this in, like, I don't know, the light that I'm in now, I feel like this plant would grow even quicker. So yeah, as I say, I've got loads of other plants that I could have compared in this video, because I took you through, I think, like 300 in my houseplant tour video. But I just really enjoy doing these kind of things where I like compare and I look at them and I just see what's worked, what hasn't, what I could be doing better. Plants that I've lost as well. I was looking through my houseplant tour video, and even though it was only 6 months ago, there were a few in there and I was like, oh, that plant didn't make it. So if you'd like to see one of those videos, let me know. But I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please make sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, have a lovely day, and I will see you in the next video.
Stay sexy, plant lovers.